How confident are you in your ability to manifest what you want in your life? I'm sure you love the idea of manifestation, as we all do. The idea that you can take your thoughts and dreams and emotions and mix them together, put it on that vision board, and see the universe work in your favor. However, for being honest with ourselves, many of us feel stuck, stifled, and held back in certain areas of our life, like money or relationships. You may have very contracted emotions that come up that cause confusion and make it difficult to feel connected to those visions and to then stay in the action or in the movement towards them. And that can feel very self-defeating. We can beat ourselves up about that being difficult. If that's you, you're gonna love today's episode because I bring on my longtime friend, Dr. Doktor, who just released his brand new book, All It Takes Is One, now a bestseller on Amazon.
If you are living your life with life philosophies that are not who you are and support who you are, everything that you do and within that mindset is not authentic. And where we're not authentic, we don't shine. We don't create. We're just basically a robot doing the same thing like everyone else did.
Ray's been a coach for the past 30 years and he holds a doctorate in psychology. And we drill into how to 10x your manifestation powers by first identifying the hidden beliefs that are causing you to feel these emotions and how to process that stuff, get through it on the other side so you feel in your power once again and able to move forward. This is a key step in the manifestation process. So if that interests you, you're going to love today's show. I'm your host, Eric Coplen, and welcome to another episode of The Music of Life. I'll see you inside. Dr. Ray, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
Well, first I want to congratulate you. You got the book published. All It Takes Is One. And yeah, there it is. There's a new copy.
I still look like my cover, which is cool. Which is, when I get a book, I look at the author, then I see him do videos. I'm like, how old was that photo? So
yeah, this is fresh. But more importantly, you just hit Amazon bestseller status. So congrats on that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Well, we're going to talk about your book a little bit today, but I had like a frame for this conversation. I recently did an interview with the CEO of the Monroe Institute and about out-of-body experiences. And the whole benefit of those was around the idea of kind of overcoming the ultimate limiting belief of whether, are we more than just our bodies, or, what is consciousness? It's on a really deep level. But a lot of people, that had commented on that video, I know are people that are interested in abundance and manifestation and how they can acquire more personal power in life to create intentionally. We hear a lot of talk about abundance or manifestation techniques and learn about that. But the truth is, many of us get hung up. And I thought your book did such a wonderful job of dealing with that specific issue of the hidden beliefs that get in the way. And I wanted to get you on to kind of get your take on how a person can use the information in your book and these techniques to help open up more possibilities in their life. And you said you were game, so I gotcha.
All right, cool. Well, specifically, and you brought up the Monroe Institute. If you were to draw a connection to the frequency going out of body, to how that relates to living a better life in this, say, physical reality, is that what you're hoping that you can get from me? Like, such as how does getting out of our own way basically help us to achieve the life we want? Because basically, if you do the hemisync, or if you go out of body, then your stressed out nervous system is over there, and whereas your higher spirit is somewhere over here, seeing things from a higher perspective, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Honestly, hadn't even thought of it to that level, but that's a really, so short answer, yes. That's awesome.
Okay.
I also, I have some questions based on your book, and I wanted to throw a couple of these at you too, if we just want to get the conversation going here. And the first one is just about because in your book, you talk about this idea that we can often have one, it's not that there's just one, but often there's really big ones. There's some really fundamental hidden beliefs. And you talked about how just getting past or being able to transcend one of those really big ones can have incredible impact on your life. And I thought if you could, being the author, you're so close to this stuff, and I know you've been a coach for 30 years, working with many clients, but on a personal level, do you have any personal stories where like there was a hidden belief that you uncovered for you, and how did that impact your capacity to, manifest or, step into more abundance in life?
Well, let's use the example of a person wanting to be an entrepreneur, that they're working a job that pays a bill and there's some security there for them. But this entrepreneur, this artist, whoever this person is, wants to know that they're going to be able to make it in life. And so what ends up happening typically is they're going to have to move through whether or not people like them or the product. They're going to have to move through the process whether or not they have the skill set and know how to manage the business, and that hopefully, say, people like the product or service. But listen to underneath that, what that person would have to have and embody. Trust in something greater than what you've come to know about yourself, to trust in what your outcome could be, besides like another person who tried maybe to sell those products or go off on his own, and knowing that you have the ability. So all of us, if we're trying to move forward, whether it's in a business or a relationship or anything else, we're all part of the collective narrative, which is filled with a lot of doubt. And it's not just other people's doubts, it's our own. And maybe it's not our own. Maybe it's something that came programmed when we were pre-verbal, such as we're at the kitchen table as a baby trying to get food in our mouth, but it's all over our face. And we have a parent saying that life is really hard. It's really difficult to make it. Just be happy you have a roof over your head. And so just imagine this baby grows up as an adult. They're working at this shitty job and they want to become an entrepreneur. And they're going to have to go through all that programming, even the one where they weren't even really that conscious, coming from their parents saying that it's going to be really hard. Just be happy you have a roof over your head. And so if we want to achieve something, we're going to have to move beyond what we've been taught, what we've come to know. And that takes trust in something greater. So for most people, all they know is basically what people have told them and what they've experienced. And if they reach out to a coach like myself, or they start watching videos on YouTube like this to seek some type of support, they're still going to have to go through a process of questioning themselves, such as saying, who am I to be successful? Who am I to live an abundant life? Who am I to achieve these results when, after all, from the beginning of my life, my dad said, life is hard. It's really hard to make it, and be happy you have a roof over your head. For that person, their ceiling is really small. It's right here. Whereas for someone to be successful in relationships on this planet or in a career, you have to go beyond that. You have to go beyond that ceiling to basically test the waters and trust. So the person I described is myself. As well, because I grew up with parents who grew up during the Great Depression. So I actually got those messages. Yeah. They had to work really hard. They were really poor. They had the stable job that had benefits. And
your dad was a World War II vet too, right?
Yeah. So I had to move through all of that doubt to achieve the success I have had in my life. And so I went through all of that. I had a horrible relationship with money, such as when I was younger, I did start making more money, but I didn't heal, say, my money wounds. So I overspent. I had to claim bankruptcy because I couldn't handle all my bills. Plus, I didn't know how to take true responsibility for what I was creating in my life. And I had to start all over again. And when I did, within 2 years, I was in debt again because I had not healed my relationship with money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's awesome. I I'm curious if this makes sense to you. It reminds me of when I had learned a lot of courses on like how to do sales, and specifically influence, and how do you speak to a person, how do you communicate the value of what you're offering in a way that understands how the human mind works. And you mentioned that you had a desire. In other words, you had some type of vision of being like an entrepreneur. And in sales, we would call that like, everyone has an idea. There's something that excites you. There's some, and you're going to feel some positive emotions around it, this idea. And that's the easy part. That's the part you might talk about with your friends or like write in your journal or whatever. The part that's not so fun is the second stage, is where there's all these yeah buts. So it sounds like you're talking about the doubts. It's like, yeah, I'd love to start a business, but I've never done this before, or but, my parents don't support me, or but, who am I to do this? Those kind of things. And it sounds like that, because you think in manifestation, like in order to arrive and create, you can't manifest something if you're not willing to do it or willing to take the actions. So I think what I realized in your knowing you, and especially like what you've culminated into your book, is it's that second stage of like, yes, you want something, but what are the buts, if you're really being honest with yourself, that are coming up for you, that are standing in the way? Am I on point with that?
Absolutely. One thing I want to speak about too is that from what I experienced is that a lot of people want to leave their job because of their asshole boss, or they don't believe in the product. They don't want to work those long hours. They want to stop making money for someone else. So more than often, it's to get away from what they do not like. And from that consciousness, that's not how you want to create your business, meaning like you're trying to escape. Like, for example, during the pandemic, a bunch of people fled to, say, Florida and Texas, come to discover that, when the dust settled, like, is this aligned with me? Or did I do this out of reaction? So you never want to start anything in your life from a place of reaction, because when you integrate yourself again and you have clarity, there might be a different choice, a better way to go about that. So I wanted to share that. When you're in a good open state and you feel better about yourself, then there's more things that can assist you on your journey. As an example as well, of how things are attracted onto you, say law of attraction. Well, I was trained under Dr. Netherton, but at the time I had not finished school. And I did want to. I wanted to get my doctorate in clinical psychology. I thought I would become an author, and I did many years later. It took a while, but the idea was I wanted to go through school, but I didn't want to go back to regular junior college or take courses I disliked. And through my open heart and feeling good, because I started coaching people, I attracted a couple psychotherapists, and they said, you're really good at what you do. Did you know in California, they had these schools where like you don't have to go through all of that. There's a different path. And that led to me being able to use life experience, writing a thesis, which was in a school in Hawaii. Funny thing is that Dr. Netherton happened to write the curriculum for that school, and I didn't know it, for one of their programs. And so, of course, yes, that helped me kind of get in, but it allowed me to not have to go in a direction I didn't want to. In other words, it supported me in a way that I didn't know exists. So in my mind, I thought it was going to take all these linear steps to get my master's and my doctorate. But I probably was able to shorten it literally by 2 years because of this other path. That other path would have not showed itself unless I already started coaching. It wouldn't have showed itself unless I was feeling good and my heart was open. And also I was remaining in a curious state of mind. Therefore, I attracted these psychotherapists who said, Ray, this is how we did it. These are other paths. So when you are in that open state of mind and you're come from an abundant mindset, things show up in your life that way as well. So, yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so if I'm a person out there watching right now, and how do I, like, what would be like what's the process? Because first, it sounds like a step one, you need to be able to somehow identify that you have hidden beliefs. So what's like a process, or like what's the way that, what would be your best advice to someone watching? They could maybe try it home right now. And I know you have a lot in your book too that goes through more, right? Like really, you have some really cool, like deeper processes, but like, what is that process? Like, how does that work? Like, how do you know you have a hidden belief? How do you identify it?
So first off, the first thing we have to recognize is, what is our why for relationships? What is our why for success? What is our why to say even exist? And what I mean by that is, if you are living your life with life philosophies that are not who you are and support who you are, everything that you do and within that mindset is not authentic. And where we're not authentic, we don't shine. We don't create. We're just basically a robot doing the same thing like everyone else did. So it's very important to break down and understand what it is that, how we've come to believe about certain things. So in my book, there's a chapter where it goes through the main 11 influencers of like what has come shape most of us, particularly in the Western culture, and to decode that, to recognize what our relationship blueprint is to religion, to sexuality, to relationships, to finances, and so forth. From just that little simple process, you'll recognize, that I might be doing whatever it is I'm doing right now because someone else told me that's the way it's supposed to get done. And so from there, you start basically breaking down clearly, like in a clearer way, your map, your relationship blueprint to what you want to improve in your life. That would be the first step. Number two, and I'm just going to leave it at two, we can continue on, would be this. Even though you now have this map, now that you have clarity of where you want to go, on any journey towards becoming, you're going to hit unhealed trauma. You're going to hit blocks. You're going to hit self-doubt. So you do this process also, and that is Byron Katie's work. And that is where you'll ask the question, is this true? How do I absolutely know this is true? More than often, the response is it's not true. Who do you become when you have that thought? Like, what happens in your body? How do you act? Do you yell? Do you become reactionary? Do you withdraw? And then the fourth question is, who would you be if you didn't have that thought? Who would you be? How would you act? And more often people will say, I'd be confident. I'd be smiling. I would I would feel more like myself, and I wouldn't come off as awkward. So I have a process in my book where there are questions that ask the reader to really break down clearly what is in your way. Because if you say, my mom is in my way, this person not saying they're sorry to me is in my way, if you break it down, you'll recognize it comes back down to this. What can I do anyway? How can I take responsibility anyway? How can I move in this direction anyway? Because it's just a thought that's blocking me. And with those types of thoughts, it generates negative emotion. So as an example, all of us, maybe there's only one person who has not had this experience where they have received a text message when they're stressed, or when they're tired, or when there's a lot of distractions, and it feels heavy in our body. What the hell is that? There's this heaviness that's being generated in our body. Then we might look at that text message the following day or after we take a walk, and it feels easy. Well, when we read that text message, something shifted in our consciousness, even if it was just taking a nap. But we now perceive it as just a request, we receive it as maybe a question or curiosity. We don't see it or experience it in a negative way. Therefore, we don't feel overwhelmed. And so the reason I'm using this description with you, Eric, is this, is that everything you resist will persist. And it persists as heavy emotions in your body. But remember, our emotions don't define us. Our emotions don't define us. They guide us. They help us enjoy life. They also help us avoid danger. But our emotions are not who we are. Who we are in each moment is typically by our perceptions of how we're perceiving reality. And how, like, for example, we might perceive a text message as negative as one moment. We create the experience of negativity in that moment.
Yeah.
We take a nap. We look at the text message. Oh, he or she has just asked me a question. It feels like ease. We are creating that experience within. So the most abundant mindset is one in which where we can perceive life as neutral, as joyful, as learning, and hopefully with as much excitement as possible. But when we try to move forward in a direction, we hit a block, we have to question ourselves, is it a true block or is it my emotion in the moment?
Yeah.
Is it a true block or is it the way I'm thinking about this?
Well, tell me what you think about this. This is what came up for me when you were talking about that. One of the sometimes I think what can make this stuff a little bit tricky is we can fall into traps. There's kind of little mind traps. We get little games we play with ourselves. And I think you said the word earlier. You said resistance, to not resist. And before you even said it, I was literally thinking, oh, I should ask Ray, like, should we, rhetorical question, should we resist our negative emotions? To which I know you would say no, like they serve a purpose, right?
Yeah.
But I think the reason there's something that happens whenever we feel a contracted emotion, when we feel that shame, guilt, fear, anxiousness, we kind of know, there's a part of us that knows that we're a little dysfunctional in that moment. Or we can, if you're a person who cares about being, let's say, a good person, you might know enough to know that, hey, I shouldn't react to this emotion. In other words, I shouldn't project my anger. I shouldn't reply to that text message and say something I'm going to regret, or, start a fight or whatever it is. And I think, some people may have no problem with that. That's their default and that is their problem. But I think kind of in the spiritual community, or like people into manifestation, you can get into this trap of thinking, well, I shouldn't be feeling that emotion because the emotion leads to that behavior. And so this is really about changing how you respond to an emotion. Like the question comes down, like, how do you actually respond when you're in that moment and you feel the contracted emotion, when you feel the anxiousness, when you feel the trigger? Can we just get a little granular on that? Like, how should one respond to it when it comes up?
So, two things I'm going to do to exercise. First off, the number one thing to do is every morning a person should have some type of practice, bottom line.
Okay.
So it basically prepares you for the day. No differently than if you were to go to the gym and do a quick warm up and just stretch a little bit so you don't hurt yourself. It's the same thing with your mind. You need to practice this. So as an example, there are things happen in my life, but rarely do things stress me out because I have a different perception. I don't receive it as negative. I receive things more, if it's shitty or like I don't like it, it's more neutral. It's like, oh, that's it. I just move, away from that. But as far as an actual exercise, shit, let's just get right into it. So the exercise would be this. So first practice this and then try it out there. Okay. Maybe practice it 2-3 times. So if you're listening to this or watching this, is allow yourself to go to an experience that it's not something that's really heated right now, but something that you can think about that maybe feels unresolved, or that when you think about it, you still feel some trigger. So it might be, as an example, I'll think of my neighbors who have a tendency to just leave all their stuff. They don't clean up after the kids and their stuff's all over there. And I'm finding myself having to move their toys out of the way when I'm driving up this alley. Okay. So I don't really have a strong reaction to that, honestly, but it's light for me. It's like, yeah, it's a preference. Like, why don't you clean up after your kids? So now imagine I am projecting away and I'm holding that energy in my solar plex, such as, why don't they do this? I can't believe this. Raw thoughts. They are so sloppy and inconsiderate. I would never do that. Those whatever slobs, I go into just judging it for a moment because the truth is I probably have some of those thoughts.
Yeah.
And then what I do is I hold the energy in my solar plexus right here, right there below your heart. And then I allow myself to remove the thoughts and reasons why I'm having this feeling here, such as it's now I'm taking away the cause of this. Like the cause that I might be blaming us on is that I have messy neighbors. I remove the thoughts and the reasons why I think I feel this energy. Now I have raw energy. Now I have raw energy that can create worlds and buildings and art. Now I feel the energy with no judgment, know why I feel this. I rise from a higher perspective to look at this energy and I take some deep breaths into it and ask myself this question: with this raw energy, what can I create today that would make me feel better? What can I put my energy into to it be a more productive day? Now I'm fueling intentionally something that can move me in a direction to be creative, whether it's creative in my imagination, whether it's actually going to my yard and doing some gardening or painting or something else. So remember I shared with you, most people, when they are trying to shift from getting out of a job or out of a relationship that's usually to escape, typically they have that raw energy, but they still have a negative mindset. So it's not going to create what they want. What we just did was get right to that energy that usually people, when they finally integrate, will use that to fuel them to move forward better in their life. Such as, just imagine I'm that person at that job and I'm thinking, I don't want to work anymore. These guys are fucking assholes. Okay, cool. And then I calm down, I feel an energy and I go, you know what? I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to further my education, or I'm going to try to become an entrepreneur. Or it could be where this guy's toxic, she's toxic, he or she's always lying to me, but I find myself always in relationships. I've never been single for a while. That's just like, fuck this, I'm going to be single for a while. Then finally, when that person maybe integrates, they feel that in their body, oh, I'm going to reach out to a coach. I'm going to pick up a self-help book. I'm just going to enjoy life a little bit as a single person. So you're directing that energy a little bit, ahead of time, almost as if we're moving right to integration and using that to fuel you in the right direction that you want to go.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the judgment component of it, where it's important to connect with and be honest with yourself about what judgments you are experiencing. Because one of the traps I found that I caught myself in was I, have this belief that I should be a non-judgmental person, right? Judge not, lest ye be judged. It's like a Christ principle, right?
Yeah.
And the point is, you do arrive at non-judgment, but the way you do it, you also can't judge yourself for having judgmental feelings or judgmental thoughts. And I think you can bypass yourself if you're not careful, if you're trying to be a good person, by not wanting to admit to yourself that you have some like judgments of the world or situations. And there is value in just like, you mentioned Byron Katie. One of the things she said too was, her formula is, judge your neighbor, write it down, ask 3 questions, turn it around, right? This idea like where, like connect to your very primal, just petty, total self-serving human self and like just let it rip for a minute and to get it, to bring that up to the surface. And then that allows you to then do something with it. Right. But if you don't, and I'm really getting granular on this because I want, people watching to understand like the steps that go into this, because it's the little details that can matter. And if you don't allow yourself to know what that is, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to transmute that or shift it in the way you're talking about shifting to say, how could I use this energy to create what I want instead of feeling limited, right? How do I redirect this energy? Because it's just energy, right? It's emotional energy that's blocked. How do I redirect it into a way that brings where I feel connected to and to power? So I just wanted to make a clear distinction on that for anyone watching. It's like the point of admitting that you have judgment is so that it doesn't act unconsciously out in the world in ways that you're not aware of. You want to bring it up in the privacy of your own mind, in your heart, and not be afraid of that. That was just for me something I was taught through, I had this fear of like, no, I unconsciously wasn't wanting to admit to myself that I had some like anger, resentment, or judgment towards a person or a situation. And by not bringing it up, I couldn't deal with it. Right. So I needed to start doing that in order to do that. So I appreciate that clarity on that.
I am a very judgmental person, and I just wrote a book. I
I'll get you a t-shirt.
I'm a very judgmental person, and that I've been in this field for, like 3 decades. I'm a very judgmental person, and I've worked with the most amazing masters, people that most people will never meet, in this lifetime. And those people too were judgmental as well because they were human. And unless we grew up in a world where we're totally disconnected from these collective negative narratives, as an example, most of us watch social media, we watch TV shows. There are different archetypes that they show on TV, like a hero, a villain, and it basically plays off of humanity. But also what plays off of humanity is the hot girl, the hot guy, the person who is more successful. And therefore, that in the movie, it always shows that person doing something better, getting something maybe we think we want. And therefore, unconsciously, like we're always comparing ourselves to other people. For some people, it's constantly, and it puts them into depression. And then sometimes it's once in a while, like someone like myself, where I might see a coach who has a program that has really good copy or something, and it seems to be taken off. And I might have a moment like, God, why? Particularly if, say, something of mine was struggling. But then I also kind of go, good for him. I want to celebrate him because we're all connected. And I notice that the more I celebrate other people's wins, I seem to win. But we all go through that once in a while. Even this video we're making, you might be looking at it like, shit, like I messed with the SEO and I hope it does well because it excites me. You're not necessarily looking for attention, but it definitely feels good, Eric, if like a lot of people like this video and they're engaged. It's just like it's equity and just exchange of energy. And but you can have a moment you're like, why is this one doing better or not doing as well as the other one? And we have moments. So hopefully when we soften ourselves in our hearts, we can kind of just look at it as more contrast, as a moment of like, oh, there's a part of me, maybe it's still insecure, or, oh, I guess I'm a little bit stressed and basically I'm not seeing the bigger picture of this. But it's really attempting to remain in a heart, even when we're judgmental, because what ends up happening is that we end up recognizing what we're judging within ourselves, our own shortcomings.
Yeah. Well, I'll give a personal example, an anecdotal example, because you brought up the whole, post on YouTube. So I had mentioned the Monroe video, so and I have got quite a big feedback on it, but some of the feedback was critical, and there was people had an expectation that I should be more of like in an interview role, and I should let my guests talk more, for example. That was the thing that came up. my experience of the interview was we had a blast. I've known her for many years, and she texted me after, and we had a great time, whatever. So my initial reaction when people made that comment was like, I felt the contracted emotions. I felt like, who are the, like I felt judged, or I felt like judged. So, and then what does my judgmental mind do? It makes you, I can be a smartass. Like I can be a witty, I can use my tongue like a sword if I want to. I could really hurt someone. Right. And I know that. And a knee-jerk reaction is to like reply on social media and hit back, right? But I sat with it and I said, first of all, what is my judgment? What am I really experiencing here? And what I was experiencing was what I had said. I realized I had a good time and really enjoyed it. And it kind of just, I guess I had an expectation that people would think the same. And so when I looked at it from their perspective, I said, well, I can see that they just value, there's a certain style that they value. They had an expectation, and that's okay. That's what they value. And they're just sharing their opinion and their experience of it. And the more I sat with that, I could see both sides of the coin. The contracted emotions began to go away, and I just kind of felt neutral about it. And then I was able to reply with my truth was just that I actually appreciated their feedback, because that's actually valuable information for me to know that people, there's different styles and different approaches to these things. And it had me do some research. I looked into different podcast formats. There's conversational ones, there's talking heads, there's interview styles, whatever. And I realized okay, there might be a time where I shift more interview, or a time, whatever. It was just valuable feedback to get. And it wasn't any judgment of me as a person, whatever. It was just a person's opinion. And so that was cool. That was something where I didn't have to take it as, I didn't take it personally anymore, and was able to just move right through it and, learn some lessons from it. And I think that's a great example of how life works. You have all these little micro things that happen that are going to trigger you, and it's your relationship with what happens, and particularly not thinking that something is wrong because, oh no, in this moment, I'm not connected to that joy anymore. It's actually opportunity in the contracted emotions.
Yeah, you're strengthening your life yoga through that experience. And therefore, it gets easier when things happen like that. I have removed every one of my reactions on YouTube and everywhere else after the fact, because when the storm calmed down, and I just went, God, why did I even put that out there? And it always came back down to that. I have this expectation that people would enjoy it the same way, to where it's more than anything, when people project something really distorted that's so far removed from my reality experience, even when it's really dark, it's like someone throwing mud on my painting, And then I step back and kind of go, well, this person is working out something. I don't know where he or she is, but one thing for sure, it wasn't them that triggered me. It was still me experiencing me.
Yeah.
Bottom line,
and that's
me experiencing me. So they are a teacher to that, and they're reminding me that once more. And I know some people, not many, who I'm shocked how they respond to trolls. Oh my God, they have a gift for that.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about people pleasing thing. I'm just talking about where they know how to turn it around. I don't have that skill set. And I'm okay with not having that.
I want to shift the conversation. It's not really a shift. I want to kind of deepen it a little bit, because, people wanting to we all want to manifest. We all have dreams. Okay. And I think we came from a world for thousands of years where the dreamers were treated as though it was naive in a lot of cases, or there's a lot of power games that have gone on in humanity. And to truly believe in abundance, it's a funny thing. You have to transcend the only playing the the competitive game, and you have to see that everything is actually collaborative. Every experience is actually serving you. But the name of the game, in my opinion, is that everything is about power. And one of the big lessons I've learned, and your book kind of points at this as well, and I want to get your opinion on this, your thoughts. We all have to confront power. Okay, we have unlimited potential. Doesn't mean we don't experience limitations, but there's a potentiality that's there where there's an infinite upward growth of evolution, let's say, right? So power is a thing in the universe, like things are constantly in motion, energy is constantly flowing. There's no getting away from power. Power is a very real thing. It shows up in our 3D world as everything from electricity to electromagnetism to nuclear energy. It shows up, we feel it in our body. Energy, power, and the conscious use and manipulation of that power or intentional use of it is something that we have to confront, like on a deep philosophical level. And the way I see it is like, it's our relationship with that power is what determines our level of consciousness. And you get these games, there's power that is here's what I'm trying to say. Like when I brought cells up before, for example, cells, the process of cells is based on how the human mind works. It's problem, reaction, solution. You have a problem, you have a pain, and you want to move towards a better future that creates a sense of vision or desire. You have these yeah buts or the resistance that stands in between it. If you can satisfy or resolve those resistances, you'll move towards a solution. So in sales, if you're the person who can offer a product that really drives solution, and you can speak to that person's pain that they're in, what they want, and then help them overcome their objections, it'll remove the resistance, and they'll make a decision to move towards you and exchange energy to acquire that product. That's how it works. And manifestation is exactly the same. However, I think what can scare people in the 3D world is that these same powers can be used for manipulation. So in other words, if I have a shitty product and I'm just trying to serve myself through greedy means, I can also use someone's emotions against them, and I can play to their fears and dangle something in front of them that presents itself as a solution. But really I'm getting them to bypass their own power and go do something. You kind of see that in the world, like politics, you see this kind of thing. So I think that can create wounds in people.
You mean like Facebook algorithms?
Yeah. Like it's just an algorithm, right? It's like, it's in and of itself, you still have a relationship with it. It's going to reflect back to you what you're interested in and what you respond to.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So it's funny when you say that. Just for example, I brought up Facebook. There are things that my brother, he is all about I don't want my privacy to be stolen. It already happened. And, but he talks about what's being presented to him as if it's a perpetrator or that he's disempowered. And I'm the opposite. I click on things I want to see later on. I want to see more of them so I can understand it, like a product that's maybe I'm interested in. But it's up to me knowing who I am versus what's being put in front of me, meaning that nothing can control me that way.
Yeah. Well, here's my point and my question to you. I think that many of us resist our own power unconsciously because we associate power with evil or being used for manipulative purposes. Because the skill of influencing someone's mind can be used for service to self or service to the whole, but it's the same skill set. I mean, literally, it's the same skill set. And so if you don't know, for example, I'm just going to use sales as a great example. We can all relate to it. If you don't know how you are sold, then you become unconscious when you are being sold. If you don't understand, but yet if you learn the skill of sales and you have good intentions and you want to start a business and say you're a coach or you want to teach people, you genuinely care and want to serve others, you can't get away from needing to know that same skill that could be used for, let's say, evil. So that's the point I'm trying to make. You have power is accessible to everyone and you can use it for service to self, service to others. So what do you think on that idea that people resist their own power? What are your thoughts on that?
The reason why I think people resist their own power are these reasons. Number one, many people are not even aware of their own power until they take personal responsibility. Such as, for example, most people think they're a victim of their circumstances, and it's because of other people or other things in their life that's controlling them. Therefore, because they're not aware of their own power, if they were to step into their own power, because the projection is outward with the cause and effect of their life is from other people, they don't want to become like those other people. There might be this idea that they're going to become like a tyrant, that people can get hurt by their success, that people need to get fired. Decisions are going to be made to where other people are not happy. And there's some truth in that, which goes to the idea that to step in your own power also, what happens is that your family members, people who once had been close to you, or at least you commiserated with, also even misery, they're going to see that power and they might either try to kind of pull you in to still be sad like them, to where they might not want to hang out with you, to they might say, hey, you think you're just all, better than us. So that happens often, like when I work with just one person in a coupleship. And what I mean by that is that one partner is getting better and the other person is not. And that person who's not will try to use things to bring that person back down to where he or she is. Mm-hmm. So those are some reasons. And there's another one. It's even the idea what people think power is. And that is this. A lot of people think power is having money or influence. A lot of people think power is like your physical might and how you could be stronger towards another person. But that's not true power. In fact, it's the opposite. If you have to force someone to think and be your way, that's not power at all. That's manipulation. That's fear. Yeah. True power can lead and be on its own. True power will attract others who want to be part of your team. True power will light up other people's true selves to where that they'll want to support and move in that direction with you. So as an example, the opposite of that would be like this. If I were to talk to my girlfriend, you're going to do it this way. We're going to do it this way because it's better. And it's just the way it is, just say it's something we want to create in our life versus I'm already in that state of beingness, such as where I'm trying to get her to go is to the gym, or I'm trying to get her to think a certain way like me. When I start going to the gym, when I start feeling good and I start talking about how this has benefited my life, she's going to get lit up. And I don't have to force her to get into the gym. It would be more like she likes how I'm lighting up and it lights her up. Therefore, she's like, hey, let's go together. Let's work out together. It's kind of like that. So when we are truly authentic ourselves, we're in the ultimate power because others will also want to be part of that because it's going to connect to that part of themselves that is just waiting to awake.
I love you gave the example of the gym. It's very practical. So, that is true. If you go and you step into, you step into doing something that's lighting you up and that you believe is in your best interest for your health, and it's something that's authentic. Now, you said that in that by leading by example that you notice you have people that will follow. You gave your girlfriend's example, but I also know that's also a reality that you could go start doing things for yourself and the person you're with could feel quite triggered by that and could feel, they start to feel contracted emotions, and they could, if they're not conscious of it, they would unconsciously want to not support you in that, not maliciously even, like it doesn't have to be malicious, but just they could unconsciously, kind of talk down on it or not support you in that because it feels uncomfortable for them that you're actually challenging them by setting an example that they aren't yet willing to follow. They also know that you're elevating your life and they aren't in that area. And that can create a power dynamic where people want to play, or a false power dynamic where there's a competitiveness that could go on of like, whose will is going to win? The will of the person who unconsciously doesn't want to move, or the person who wants to create. And that can rip at the fabric of a relationship. And I think that's why this can be very visceral and real in the 3D experience, that this ties into how we relate with everything, because you might feel, say, well, I'm not supposed to have my partner feel bad. And therefore you might start feeling guilt around going and doing something good for yourself.
Yeah.
So that brings us back around to your work. And so that would be, maybe, could you break that one down just as, because I love to give practical examples. Like, you're trying to do something good for you, but someone in your life feels triggered by it, and you start to feel guilt and maybe anger or whatever it is, because they aren't supporting you. How would you handle that?
Well, I can give an example today in my relationship, but so I am not feeling my best because I had like this sinus infection, and I have not been able to go to the gym in a couple of weeks. The list goes on of things that would literally not make me physically feel good. And there's also some existential things that I'm experiencing in the area I live where I want to improve things. And my girlfriend was attempting to light me up. She wants me to be happy. And in the past, what she would do is feel like she was failing. She would like maybe get bummed out, and she would use this excuse. She would say, well, I'm your partner. I mean, of course I want you to feel better. And we're both coaches. And even she knows that happiness is an inner job. It's an inner job. But she said, I said, the best way that you can light me up is by being light yourself. Like you can be empathetic, but do not be sympathetic and sad to think you're going to reach me, because then we're both going to be in this dark cave. So today it was completely different. And she said, I sense where you are, and it must be hard that you're not been able to work out and stuff, but I also know that you have a hard time resting. So she's agreeing with like what I'm going with, but her voice, how she felt, she was actually on her way to do something good for herself, made me feel good. But if I had not done my inner work, I can go, that's great. You can go to the gym and I can't go to the gym. You know what I mean? But the thing is, people have to recognize like how do they really want to feel? And no matter what, whether they're in a relationship or not, that's just the bottom line. And that if you think you're helping your partner by feeling sad, you are not. You're enabling. In fact, it might have a negative impact more than you realize on both of you. And that the only way your partner is going to get out of his or her way and feel good, the quickest way is for you to be at least a notch up from that. Like, otherwise, you're right there with them in this invisible cave, shackled in misery.
Yeah.
And that's where you'll see like people who are really in dense matter, where they're using drugs together and they just can't get out of it, and then they're locked up. I'm thinking of Sid Vicious and Nancy. I'm thinking of people who like have overdosed or died, and we've seen that. Like it's the worst thing to see. That would be the worst case. I mean, where I see two drug addicts. I've seen them in movies. I don't like walk around and see them here. But in relationships, it can become like that too. Where it's so toxic because no one's reaching for the light and the happiness that's within.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think the point I want to convey to for those of you watching is that the relationships are definitely a container that will bring up a lot of your shadows because you're so intimate with someone. You're sharing a lot of closeness, a lot of close space, close energy, and all that. But when this just attests to the importance of like the understanding what programs you've chosen to believe or unconsciously believing, even about relationships and about what because if you don't because it's very easy to feel guilty in a relationship or jealous and guilt. Both of them are coming from fear, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have a process for and develop, and I mean a skill like you teach, like how to tie a knot or tie your shoes, or a skill like cooking, or a skill like, baking up a recipe, like a skill, a real world skill, a hack, a life technique of being able to deal with those, to confront and transcend and redirect those, even those deepest, most contracted emotions like guilt and shame that really, really can feel scary, because you feel like a lot is on the line. To stand up for yourself and make a decision that is in your power, it might cost the relationship itself. And so you end up in this tug of war between part of you wants your power and the other part of you is afraid to take it, and that's some really deep stuff. And I know you were able to offer in your book a lot of self-guided processes to kind of dig even that deep with yourself. And some that are, I love how you mentioned the 11, influencers, money, relationships, things like that, because that will help you kind of start to build a little bit stronger foundation of like, when is it okay? Like, how do I step into my power? What beliefs have I just taken on without even questioning that are impacting and making me feel, like shit, basically, in certain areas of life.
Yeah, there's a simple, it's interesting when people ask me questions about my book. Oftentimes I'll and again, the book just came out April 17th, so it's not like I have it hardwired, but a simple process is this. So in chapter 3, it's called Mental Blueprint, Decoding the Structure of Belief. You and I, on this conversation, we've talked about pretty much at the core, self-love. And if we don't have self-love, we're going to have self-doubt. And many of us experience love in a strange way, whether it's mixed messages or not, whether it was available parent or not, or whether there is actual abuse. So there's a simple exercise where it's called Return to Love exercise, where the question asked is just fill these out really quickly. Just you want to free associate. And one is love means your response. My family taught me that love meant I received love when I didn't receive love when I needed my parents' love when whatever comes to mind. And my response was love equals pain to me. My family taught me that love has to be earned. I received love when I achieved good grades. I didn't receive love when I disagreed with my parents. So that's a little simple exercise. Now, you might be listening to this or watching this, and you go, what the fuck does this have to do with my business? Or what does this have to do with any of this?
Yeah.
And the point is this, is that that resistance you have, that self-doubt, remember, it's within. And if you have an unhealthy relationship to love, you probably might not love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, when you try to express yourself, when you try to put yourself out there, or when you try to come off confident, it's not going to be real because you're forcing it. You're trying to create a persona, an idea, or something in a way, maybe it's hidden, to be loved, to be validated, when you can get right to the core roots and figure out why you don't love yourself, or why you have mixed messages about love, or why you feel like you have to be worthy of some idea to be loved. That gets you right to the roots, right there, to kind of decode all this bullshit.
Yeah, it's a great process. I went through that one myself. It's good to do every now and again, to kind of remind yourself. Sometimes you kind of peel this stuff away in layers too. So we have.
Can I mention something really quickly? It's about It's about Nicole. Okay, so one of the shadows my girlfriend had, it was a fucking big ass thing for her. I mean, anyone. So her father was gay, and she didn't know it until 2-3 months when he was dying of AIDS, and she was in college. So she had mistrust with just men, parental figures or authority figures. So here she meets me, and I'm pretty good at decisions, and I'm pretty good at directing, and I'm not self-serving. So there were times that I would share information which was very clear to me. And here I have a great track record of always coming through. I grew up, my father was a Marine. He always followed through. He was all about taking personal responsibility and integrity. But my girlfriend wasn't. At first, it was where I thought she was doubting me. I'm like, don't you trust my direction? But it's where that she had a negative relationship to trust itself, because trust equaled deception. Trust equaled lies or secrets. And that was something that was still hidden from her. So here I was showing up as a healthy man, but remember her relationship with the first man in her life, her father. So it wasn't that she needed to heal anything with her father. She'd come to accept him, love him. She was by his side when he passed away. It was beautiful. It was 20 years ago. It was where she needed to reevaluate, what is my trust to myself? By not trusting him, I stopped trusting myself. If I can't trust myself, can I trust Ray? And so again, it comes back to ourself and looking at those relationships that we have, that we, for example, our relationship to money, to spirituality, to trust itself. We need to see whether or not it's healthy. And it's truly something that there's this flow in our life with. And if not, then shit will just keep showing up in our life. We'll keep facing ourselves again and that new problem.
Yeah, it comes up and it ends up being a pattern in your life, different relationships, same problem, or always the same money issue, whatever it is. And I think one of the most, a big message too I want to share with everyone is how important you're talking about self-love, but I also think self-compassion is a way to access that. Having compassion that you're just, even the unconscious belief that you should be somewhere else versus where you're at right now, that you shouldn't be having this issue, that you shouldn't be having this challenge is not rooted in truth. The truth is that you are. Otherwise, you wouldn't be feeling the emotion. And so even thinking you shouldn't is a resistance of it. And that kind of gives you your permission slip to step in and start to have compassion for the self. And also be willing to learn and go through some type of process, get the help that's going to help you to reframe those beliefs. We'll put a link. You have a website for the book. I believe it's all it takes is one book.com. And I'll put it right here. And it's currently on Amazon. It's a bestseller, and it's available in print and in Kindle. And in the not too distant future, you'll have an audiobook, but not quite yet because it just came out. And I have kind of a final question more about what's going on in the world today. It's 2024 at the time of us filming right now. And just as someone who's so deeply in tune with unconscious narratives that people tell themselves and how these even show up in the collective unconscious narrative. In other words, the population at whole or the world at whole. What are some of the, based on looking at things going on in society today, war, politics, the certain current social issues, cancel culture, things like that. These can be very challenging, and there's a lot of new challenges for people to face. What would you say are some of the top collective unconscious shadows that you see emerging in societal behavior today?
Well, what's interesting is that
it's a whole nother podcast there, but
there's been a war that's been going on for thousands of years. We can talk about that. There have been, oh God damn, it's most people right now are looking at our systems, our government, to things are becoming exposed. And yet those problems have been there for forever. They've been there. The churches used to be very much linked to, the government. So therefore, a lot of what people have come to believe, you can't be so sure there's truth in that. So it's very important that all this kind of question why we believe things. So this now, I will directly answer your question. Number one, it's important to look at our own relationship to uncertainty. and not keep projecting that onto the news, whether or not someone's going to be the new president or not. We have been in a state of uncertainty for a very long time. Okay? And uncertain people make decisions that are not holistic. So if you have children watching you, you want to make sure that you're clear with who you are, you're decisive. So they're modeling that same thing. They come from integrity and they have some certainty about their own life and well-being. Okay? So number 2, people are having major trust issues, which is very similar to the uncertainty. And that is where, can I trust this information I'm seeing online? Can I trust these guys who are talking on this podcast? Can I trust? Turn it around. Can I trust myself if I make a bad decision? Can I trust that I can make a new decision? Can I trust that life is going to be okay by whatever mistakes I make? Can I trust I can learn from this? That's another one. Number 3, where am I going to be in the future? That's connected to uncertainty and trust also. Well, are you happy where you are right now? Most people maybe are going to say, well, I wish I can have a little bit more of this. I'm okay, but no, they're not happy right now. Okay? So if you're in a state of consciousness where you are not happy, how the fuck can you determine your future?
Yeah.
Meaning that if you're stressed out, how can you foresee anything positive? So
it's hard to plan a vacation with a lion in the room.
Yeah. So look at what's within 3 feet in front of you. Look what's important right now. Start with the little things, such as your children, your garden, or what's important right now. Take little steps. Improve what's in front of you right now, even if it's as simple as not eating as much, or even walking a block, or not eating fast food, or by not looking at Facebook for one day. Just a simple step to move yourself more in a direction of feeling positive. So take simple steps so you can be in your body and grounded and connected to your emotions now. And then maybe you can see what's next, but take baby steps. Those are just what I would share right now. I can keep going on and on and on.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Core roots, because most people are projecting onto the news, the elections, money. We have had these challenges always, and it's become more amplified. So it's very important for you to calm yourself and be in the eye of the hurricane.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Well, you and I have an invitation for those watching, and that's very much related to that. If you're watching to this point, you're someone who cares about manifesting. In other words, you want to live a life of intentionally. You want to feel connected to your power. And the truth is that we all are swimming in a sea of ideas, as an ocean of collective unconscious shadows that are being played out on the world stage, that in ways that are in the open, and there's a lot of fear and stuff going on. And one of the symptoms of this, and you're not crazy and feeling off, or feeling that there's having your power feel a little rattled. I've certainly have gone through that. Ray's gone through his own stuff. It's something that it's a thing. Okay. It's a thing. And one of the things you may be seeking, for sure, get Ray's book. You can get it on Amazon or Kindle. At the time of this video, it's you can get it Kindle for as little as $1.99. In the future, it may go up, but at this point, it's still there. To begin doing some work on your own at home, because you're going to start to feel relief. Because once you see your power, you will step into it. It's about having the option and becoming aware of it. It's a rational decision at that point. You'll do it and you'll feel better. And it's when you see solutions, you'll do it. But another thing that is important is support and having community. And we have an invitation that makes available to you access to Ray's expertise and other coaches like myself that can provide a group coaching container and community experience that's very unique. Something that is built around the principles of stepping into your power, where as a group, you get to go through your own processing, bring up what are some of the challenges, and get real time working through those things so you find your power. And we're talking about transformations that can happen in minutes, things that you might have been working on for months or years, your whole life, to get much faster resolution on it. So you can get those snags, cut those strings of fear that are swimming around, and you're feeling in your body, and have support and community in doing that. And be able to have access to this for a fraction of the cost as it would to get one-to-one expert coaching with someone like Dr. Ray, who is a rare breed in the world of coaches. If you're interested in that, it's not quite open yet, but we have a waiting list. It's called the Soulful Synergy Squad. I'll post a link right here and also put it in the description. Just go to that page and pop in your email. And when the time comes, we're still working on it right now, kind of working out the kinks and what our intentions, what the container is going to look like. But that's your way to get on that waiting list. And we'll have some initial offers. There'll be ways you can jump in and try it out we know for sure we'll be letting people try it out for like a month for a very, very Starbucks price type, offer to just try it out to make sure it's a good fit. It's for people that want to grow. It's for people that want to be able to step into their power, to really feel that, and to have it be a compassionate container with community and also accountability, which is what creates the actual forward motion. Because in the world today, we need more people that are conscious of their own power to be creating what you are intended to create based on your unique aptitudes, your unique gifts and skills that you have to offer the world. That has always been the secret to creating abundance. And the more people that do that in a society, the better that society is, the more in line with harmony it is. So if that resonates with you at all, then just visit that link, put your email in, and we'll see whenever we're able to launch that. So anything you want to add to that, Dr. Ray?
No, you said it all. Only thing would be that iron sharpens iron. And, if you're feeling alone and that you would like to be around more like-minded people, then become part of this group. Because even if you're in the beginning stages of this, there are other people who are like you. And that in this container, it's all about having this healthy mindset. We don't stay in victimization. No one gets judged. It's all about up-leveling ourselves together.
Well, appreciate you coming on again, Dr. Ray. We'll have more in the future. And until then, we'll see you later, man.
Thanks, brother.
Later, guys.